Welcome to the secret of the stars. On a street in London, there is a fine house that houses Mr. Darling, Mrs. Darling, and their 3 children, Wendy, John, and Michael. Mr. Darling is a strict and somewhat traditional gentleman who goes about his daily business by the book, while Mrs. Darling is gentle and virtuous, taking good care of the home and the children. The children's room is full of childish fun, with Wendy beginning to show some of her young adult qualities and enjoying telling stories to her brothers. John is obsessed with adventure stories and pirate legends, and Michael is innocent and always following his siblings around. At night, the London sky was dotted with stars, and the Darling children were all already in sweet dreams. Suddenly, a small figure creeps in through the window, Peter Pan. Peter Pan is a magical boy who never grows up and comes from the faraway and mysterious Neverland. He was dressed in clothes made of leaves and vines that seemed to blend in with nature and smelled fresh. His face was dirty, but his eyes were as lively as the twinkling stars in the night sky, and the tiny wings on his back shimmered in the faint moonlight. Peter Pan was flying lightly around the room when his eyes were drawn to Wendy. Wendy was still wearing a light smile in her sleep, and Peter Pan curiously approached her to hear the story she was telling. The wonderful storyline and Wendy's gentle voice made Peter Pan's heart swell with emotion. He decides to take Wendy and her brothers with him to Neverland for an adventure like no other. Peter Pan takes out a handful of sparkling fairy dust and sprinkles it gently on Wendy, John, and Michael. As the dust falls, the children seem to feel a wonderful power in their sleep and slowly float out of bed. Peter Pan teaches them how to use the belief in their hearts and the magic of the fairy dust to fly. The children are a little scared at first, but with Peter Pan's encouragement, they gradually build up their courage. Thus, they followed Peter Pan out of the window and into the vastness of the night sky. During the flight, they traveled through layers of clouds that were as soft as cotton candy, and the children couldn't help but reach out and touch them. The stars twinkled around them as if they were guiding them. They also encountered a flock of free-flying birds, which sang happily and surrounded them as if welcoming the brave little adventurers. Finally, they arrived at Neverland. As soon as they set foot on this mysterious land, the children were amazed by the sight in front of them. Neverland's forest is dense and peculiar. The shape of the trees is strange, some like huge mushrooms, as if the earth held up an umbrella. Some tree trunks are twisted and swirling, like a huge winding dragon. The forest is filled with fresh mist, the sunlight through the gaps in the leaves sprinkled, forming a golden light, as in a dream wonderland. The crystal-clear lake was like a huge mirror, and the lake was swimming with colorful fish, which were flashing with strange light, as if they were enchanted. In a distant valley, a castle surrounded by clouds looms. That is the Indian tribe, majestic and mysterious. In addition, there is a group of cute little elves on the island. They are like flickering fireflies, weaving and fluttering among the flowers, sprinkling bright fairy dust, making the whole island full of fantastical colors. Peter Pan took the children to the Indian tribe, where they were warmly welcomed by the Indians. The Indian princess Tiger Lily is a brave and beautiful girl. Her eyes are like deep lakes, through the firm and wisdom. She led the children on a tour of the tribe, showing them a variety of unique skills. She taught Wendy how to make exquisite ornaments with animal skins and branches. Wendy learned with great interest. Her fingers weaved between the materials and gradually made beautiful bracelets and necklaces. She taught John how to make bows and arrows. John listened attentively to every step, from choosing the right branches to tying the bowstring to polishing the arrowheads. He did it meticulously and soon made a bow and arrow of his own. She taught Michael how to track his prey, and like a lively beagle, Michael followed Tiger Lily around, learning to recognize footprints on the ground and traces of branches. The children had an immensely happy time, dancing around the fire with the Indians, their joyful steps accompanied by the rhythmic beat of the drums, and their songs echoing through the valley. They also enjoyed a delicious barbecue, the rich aroma of which made the children's taste buds rejoice. However, Neverland is not all good. In the dark part of the island, there lived a group of evil pirates, whose leader was Captain Hook. Captain Hook is a cruel and cunning man, with a tall figure, a cold face, and fierce and cunning eyes. His right hand had been bitten off by a crocodile, and in its place was a glittering iron hook, which, whenever he wielded it, sent a cold light through the air. Captain Hook had always harbored a grudge against Peter Pan for the many times he had played tricks on him, making him a laughingstock in front of the pirates under his command. One day, the pirates were patrolling the island when they spotted Peter Pan and the children. When Captain Hook learned of this, he was overjoyed and thought it was the perfect opportunity for him to get his revenge. So, he began to plan an elaborate plot to capture Peter Pan and the children. He gathered his pirates in the dark cabin to make a detailed plan. His voice is low and cold. Every command makes the pirates scared. Captain Hooker led the pirates quietly surrounded the Indian tribe. They are hidden in the woods, like a pack of lurking wolves, waiting for the best time to attack. Just as they were about to launch a surprise attack, Peter Pan's keen intuition detected the scent of danger. He quickly organizes the Indians and the children, and a fierce battle is about to break out. Like a gallant general, Peter Pan danced through the air, his hand gripping a sharp sword that shone brightly in the sunlight. He swooped and hovered, skillfully dodging the pirates' attacks. He shouted and commanded everyone, his voice firm and strong, filling the hearts of the Indians and children with courage. Wendy, John, and Michael did not flinch either. They stood behind the tribe's fortifications and shot at the pirates with their newly learned archery skills. John pulled the bowstring full, eyes focused, arrows like meteors shot at the pirates. Michael, although young, but also drummed up the courage. His arrows are not as accurate as his brother, but also gave the pirates a small deterrent. The Indians, on the other hand, waved their spears and tomahawks in their hands, and they let out earth-shattering cries, like a raging tide, rushing towards the pirates. Spears like forests, tomahawk waving, and the pirates began a close combat. Very tinkling bells on the side of the magic, her hands flashing colorful light, she used magic to create a variety of chaos, so that the pirates dazzled. She let the pirates appear in front of the illusion. Some pirates see themselves surrounded by countless monsters, scared and panicked. Some pirates suddenly appeared under the foot of the trap, have fallen into it. After a fierce battle, the pirates were gradually at a disadvantage. Their attacks were repulsed again and again, and the number of casualties kept increasing. Captain Hooker saw that the situation was not good, and his heart developed a desire to retreat. He wanted to escape and save his life. But Peter Pan would not let him go so easily, and like an agile falcon, he caught up with Captain Hook. Peter Pan and Captain Hook had a thrilling one-on-one duel. They go back and forth in the air, sword and hook clashing fiercely. Peter Pan skillfully uses his agility and speed to avoid Captain Hook's attacks again and again. Like a whirlwind, he danced around Captain Hook, leaving him helpless. And with his experience and ferocity, Captain Hook tries to find a break in Peter Pan. His iron hook swings through the air with a whistling sound of wind, and each attack carries a deadly threat. But eventually, Peter Pan found his opening, and he saw his moment and stabbed Captain Hook in the shoulder. Captain Hook let out a scream as his body fell through the air and into the sea. When the pirates saw that their leader was defeated, they were disorganized and fled in all directions. During her adventures in Neverland, Wendy gradually grows into a brave and responsible girl. She is no longer the little girl who only knows how to tell stories, but learns how to take care of herself and others, and how to stay calm and brave in the face of difficulties. When the children were in danger, she was always the first one to come forward to comfort them, and her gentle but firm voice filled everyone's heart with a sense of security. She also becomes a leader among the children, leading them to explore the mysteries of Neverland and solve various problems together. Whether facing the mysterious forest labyrinth or searching for the lost treasure, she is able to think calmly and formulate a reasonable plan. Despite the fun and adventure of Neverland, Wendy, John and Michael begin to miss their home in London. They miss the warm embrace of their parents, the comfortable beds at home, the familiar streets and friends. Whenever the night came, they looked at the stars in the sky and felt a strong sense of homesickness. So they decided to follow Peter Pan back to London. Before leaving Neverland, the children said goodbye to the Indians and the elves with sadness. They hugged each other with tears in their eyes and made a promise to see each other again. Although Peter Pan was saddened, he respected the children's decision and took them on their journey home. After a long flight, Peter Pan and the children finally arrived in London. They quietly flew through the window into the Darlings' house and returned to their room. The children discover that their parents are very worried because of their disappearance and have been looking for them everywhere. Mr. Darling had been running day and night, and his eyes were bloodshot, while Mrs. Darling had been in tears all day, and her face was haggard. Seeing the children return safely, the parents were excited and shed tears. They embraced the children tightly, as if they were afraid that if they let go of their hands, the children would disappear again. Wendy, John, and Michael returned to their normal lives, but they would never forget their adventures in Neverland. Those marvelous sights, brave battles, and true friendships became the most precious memories in their hearts. Peter Pan, on the other hand, flew back to Neverland once again, and he continued to live in that place full of fantasy and adventure, waiting for the next adventure and reunion with his friends. He knows that Neverland will always be his home, and his adventures will continue forever in this mysterious land. Do you like this story? Follow me. Here is a treasure land of fairy tales. Moreover, there are numerous long-form bedtime fairy tales on the home page, which, like magic, weave sweet dreams for you to listen to.